If you've got a question, the voices of resin are here. Oh, PlastChicks.
PlastChicks is an SPE sponsored podcast.
Hello.
Hello, Lynzie. It's been so long since our last video call.
It really has. And like, I think last
It's
time
been
it was
a whole
dark.
40 minutes, I think.
Yes, those 40 minutes ago it actually was dark. I'm not even joking. It's eerie. It can go from dark to light. And now look at the sun is shining down upon this wonderful episode we're about to do.
Hashtag literally eerie.
Hashtag literally sun shining down on us. I just said that. That's fine. Well, how are you?
I'm good. Still, I mean, not much has changed since 40 minutes ago, which is a good thing, probably. Yeah.
That's I'm glad for that.
Yeah. How about you?
You know, a lot has changed. I've been fed,
lunch.
I've
Yeah.
caffeinated. I feel good.
Yeah,
feel
I've got my coffee right here, first of the day.
I'm rocking an emotional support Diet Coke.
Okay, I thought that was an emotional support Bud Light, but no, Bud Light's blue, isn't it? Coors Light.
I would be much more obvious about that.
Well, I'm Mercedes Landazuri.
And I'm Lynzie Nebel.
And with our powers combined, we are PlastChicks,
PlastChicks.
the voices of resin.
Yep.
And you can listen to us. Our episodes release the first Friday of every month, anywhere you get your podcasts. Or you can watch the video of us and see Lindsay's maybe Diet Coke in our SPE.
You be the judge.
SPE koozie on SPE's YouTube channel, which I believe is for SPE.
I think so. Sounds
yeah,
right.
we should verify that.
We should verify that. But you know what? That's another question for another time.
Yeah. We'll put it in the show notes. Today we have with us Dr. Shilpa Manjure. She is the Global Technical Leader at Northern Technologies International Corporation. Shilpa, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I've been watching some of your PlastChicks shows before and connected with Lynzie a couple of antics ago, maybe, but haven't met you, Mercedes. And so, but I've watched you through your show. So pretty excited. And you mentioned about sun shining. I'm in Minnesota here. And so we all get excited here when the sun shines.
Right. It's a big deal.
Fellow Midwesterner, fellow Northern Midwesterner, we can relate. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Shilpa, you mentioned we've been trying to connect for a while now. And so we're really excited to have you on here. As we'll get into, you have some really cool stuff going on and you are very fascinating. So I want to start off, let's go back to the basics. You know, you began studying chemical engineering in Mumbai, and then you came to the US, you got your PhD at Clemson, which as a South Carolina family haver. So you actually may know where Saluda, South Carolina is. It is near that area. What initially drew you to plastics and biopolymers, and why Clemson? And then, you know, like, how did that take you into where you are now? Let's do the whole journey.
Yes, thank you for asking that question. And you know, excellent. I don't think I jumped into biopolymers right away. I used to love chemistry and math, and I was fascinated to doing chemical engineering as my undergraduate, which I graduated with. And I was always curious to understand a little bit more about how the science works and innovates, and we touch and feel plastics every day as fellow SPE members. I'm sure you appreciate that as well.
100%.
Yeah. And so I was super excited to learn and maybe deep dive more into the world of polymers. And that's when I decided to pursue graduate studies. And this was back, and I might be, you know, explaining what my age might be here, but this was before we were all in the cell phone and internet boom, right? So I didn't know literally where Clemson was on the map. Maybe we all hear about New York and LA when we talk about United States, but I had heard about the program through some senior colleagues and that it had an excellent chemical engineering program. And that's how I landed for my PhD in something to do with plastic films used for packaging. It was a project with Sealed Air we did for frozen packaging. And so that's how I landed up in my chemical engineering program. But, fast forward as I got into my first role, worked with polypropylene gas films and a lot of polyester laminates as well. And you could see that environmental pollution being such a big issue, and plastic pollution found on beaches. I would go back to India, travel, and I could, see dumps of plastics everywhere. And, there was something inside of me which was saying, I have this core knowledge about how plastics work, and how can I use that to solve something that can not be an issue and that can not last forever. We design something that persists in the environment forever and cause problem. But as scientists and innovators, we could do something about it. And this job came along at Natur-Tec, which I'm currently at. And as you can see, I've been there for 15 plus years now. It was something that I was passionately looking to do and have been there since then, and drawn to developing bio-based and sustainable polymers for us. So would be happy to talk a little bit more of that as we go.
Yeah, so tell us more about your role as your role as global technical leader. Now that sounds like a pretty huge
No big
position.
deal. Just the entire globe.
It just does sound fancy.
So how are you driving technical innovation and collaboration across the teams, the global teams there?
That's a good question. I think our worlds are definitely getting more global, where you develop something here, but is used across the globe. And our companies definitely has a footprint across different countries. And we have teams that do R&D and applications in India and China. We are headquartered here in Minnesota, where we have an R&D team as well. While I started off as an engineer learning about the nuances and the drawbacks and advantages of the biopolymers, as I grew into, it was actually, I have to take a step back and say that it was a startup division within a broader company called NTIC. And so it was basically me and a couple of other people. So I guess we were able to grow that business together, but also grow the team into where it exists today. And so I was able to build a lab here that we have an R&D from scratch, where we, what are the things that would be required for a plastics or a biopolymer type role, and then going from there, partnering with our manufacturing sites in India and China as well. And so, that's when the internet and the IT boom was going on. And so now we can have these video calls and Zoom calls. So this was common for us even before COVID, that we would hop on calls and have WhatsApp calls or at night. But we were able to connect with teams across the globe where our manufacturing sites are, and get that going. But in terms of biopolymers, if you think about it, the issue or the environmental plastic pollution is not just local, right? It's a global issue. And it only makes sense that we are working globally on this in different areas to resolve some of the challenges that we face.
Now, let's maybe pause for a second on this term biopolymers, because I know there's been some misunderstanding in the public eye. Can you define biopolymers for us?
Let's set the stage here.
Yeah, since we are going to continue talking more about them.
Again, a great question. You are absolutely right. There is still a lot of confusion about what do bioplastics really mean, or biopolymers really mean. And if you take a step back, it's basically broadly classified into two categories. The traditional fossil-based materials or polymers we were used to using they are not biodegradable, or they're not made from renewable resources. They come from fossilized resources or oil that we make. But there are three other categories that plastics can be grouped under. And so broadly, we look at bio-based plastics, which is when we refer to the beginning of life, or where the raw material used to make that polymer came from. So if it is something that's renewable, that is called a bio-based plastic. And then the second category is what happens to the polymer or the product at the end of life, which is does it go back to the environment? Can it biodegrade? Does it compost? So I guess broadly we have bio-based and compostable or biodegradable polymers that fall under the bioplastic umbrella. Biodegradable doesn't necessarily mean bio-based, which means that you can have a material that's compostable, but can be made from a fossil-based resource. And there are several biopolymers like that, which are polyesters. So you design into the backbone of the polymer a compostable feature. So we just discussed how a polyethylene backbone is something so strong that was created that it doesn't fall apart, it persists in the environment, but you can make a polyester type material which can fall apart. So it still comes from fossil, but it can, at the end of life, go back to carbon dioxide and water. At the same time, you can take polyethylene and not make it from fossil-based resources, but you can make it from sugarcane. And that's what Braskem has been doing, is taking sugarcane to convert that to polyethylene. So that would be a bio-based material. So you have bio-based materials, you have compostable materials that are not bio-based, but then you can have both bio-based and compostable as well.
It's like a square is a rhombus, but a rhombus isn't a square. Or no, is that not what it? No, it's not it. It's okay. We'll move on.
A Ferrari is a car, but every car isn't a Ferrari.
There we go. See, I might be too far into my course. Before we, kind of go back down the technical aspect of it, I want to speak to something else. You, as we mentioned, global technical leader, super like badass title for women in STEM. And, how do you think navigating this STEM field as a woman has impacted your leadership skills? Because obviously they're pretty great leadership skills, because from what I hear, you are leading a globe.
Thank you for that question, Lynzie. And I think leadership in itself is a journey, and every individual has a unique journey on their own. And definitely my background, moving across the globe, but also being a woman in STEM and manufacturing, which you can probably relate to, is has shaped some of the skills that I define my leadership style. And there are three strands that I would say define them. One is the first one is how do I approach the work that I do. The second, which how do I deal or work with people around me, my teams, my peers, and then the broader purpose. Why do I do what I do? And so if I break that down, I feel like the first one, where how do I approach work? And so if you when I started chemical engineering, that was right about the time when the Y2K or India, there was a lot of software engineering boom. And so there were questions asked about why chemical engineering. It's going to be so difficult as a woman for you to be in a manufacturing site. You could have a nice cozy job in a air conditioning room doing software coding. And I didn't see myself doing that. And that pushed me harder to prove myself every step of the way. I walked into my chemical engineering class, and there were 90+% boys in our class. So it was always in the minority. And fast forward to my first job, being the only woman in a manufacturing floor, a plant site, it always wanted to make sure I do whatever it takes to get the job done. So I was trying harder as well. And so how does that take into my leadership style? I feel like I'm always trying to be able to drive the project forward. If it means for my team, if I'm the person who is trying to help the team get the things done, to even if it means I'm sweeping the floor while they're doing a trial. So I think doing whatever it takes to get the job done started off because being in the minority, maybe in the beginning, trying to prove myself. And then secondly, I think, how I deal with people also relates back to being more kind and empathetic and collaborative with my team, arises from the fact actually doing my PhD was very humbling. You're excited as a young engineer, you're passionate about getting researching, and at the end of it, the biggest conclusion I had for myself, at least, was there's a lot to learn, and there's a lot that you don't know. And so every day I'm trying to learn and keep an open mind, and I'm learning from everybody, whether it's an operator on the floor or somebody on the team, and that keeps everything exciting, and also making you more humble about as you approach your team members, as you collaborate as well, having that empathy to understand where the person is coming from. And last but not the least is the passion for tying in the sustainability story. So I care deeply about bioplastics. And I see that as a way of aligning science with impact, right? So plastics has recently, in the past, a negative, what do you call it? Negative, I'm losing words here. A negative image of with the straw and the turtle type, where plastics are known to persist and they're bad for us. And as a plastics engineer, I feel like bioplastic is the solution. It can be a solution for some applications where you can design something that doesn't need to last for several years. Right, you can design in something that performs in the application and still, at the end of life, be going back to carbon dioxide and water. So, how do I, what's the give back to the community and the broader society? And that's where involving more with SPE. I started with SPE as a grad student. And then getting involved with the bioplastics division as well. So, going forward to make sure that knowledge of bioplastics can be a way to resolve some of our plastics too. So having a leadership role there to influence and educate the broader community as well.
I love that. Incorporate. I mean, that you say, when you had those 3 questions that you asked yourself, talking about your leadership skills, and the last one was why do I do what I do? And keeping that as your North Stars, I think, is so key to leadership, because that's what inspires everyone right around you.
Yes.
Yeah, so I really like that you mentioned, you're empathetic towards the people you work with and the people that you're getting these projects done with, but like that empathy also carries out into, like you were mentioning, Mercedes, like why you do what you do. Like it's also this empathetic passion, which is why, like, driving some of the desire to go into like biomaterials, and I love seeing that like connection come all the way around, because it's like you're more empathetic than, like, there are people that have said empathy is a weakness, and I would argue like this is like, the exact opposite.
That's a great point you make, because honestly, I don't think it was. Sometimes you're not thinking about what you're doing as you walk into rooms or manufacturing sites, and you could perceive that as a weakness, especially when you're not the loudest voice, maybe in the room, or you're taking care of other people, people can perceive that as a weakness until you realize that that's actually bringing out the best in other people, and is leveraged as a power or a strength, rather. So it took me a while. Like I said, it was a journey, and being able to embrace your authentic self is sometimes
It's tricky.
Yeah. So, in your role, you get to work on a lot of exciting sustainable alternatives to some of like the more ubiquitously used plastics that seem to be ever present, right? In our daily lives, as we mentioned earlier. Would you be able to tell us about some of those exciting sustainable alternatives you've worked on?
Absolutely, there are a lot. I can definitely speak about one that we are recently developed, and I'm actually going to be speaking about it at an upcoming conference in Cleveland, Ohio, AMI, Bioplastics.
Can
end
I
of
stop
August.
over there?
Absolutely, I'd love to. It's about a formulation that we have developed for an alternate solution to polystyrene hot cup lids. And as you know, you mentioned
The
about your
problem
coffee, right? A lot of people are using, reusable cups, which is a good thing, but there is still a lot of hot coffee cups. The numbers say it's about 50 to 100 billion disposable coffee cups annually just in the US. That are used every day. And so that many equivalent hot cup polystyrene lids. And again, as we all know, polystyrene, again, persists in the environment. The styrene monomer is known to be hazardous. And it's hard to recycle as well. So the recyclability is pretty minimal there. And so what can we do in the bioplastic space that will allow a material to perform, have the heat resistance, be able to be thermoformed, and then be disposed of at the end of the cycle, so that it can be composted along with food waste as well. And so one of the things is that a lot of these are, once they are contaminated with food, again, reduces the recyclability of it. So what we have developed is a formulation that can actually process on polystyrene lines themselves, because a lot of people are manufacturing equipment is designed for polystyrene. And so how can we use these bioplastic materials and get the same outputs and be able to mold, thermoform them on a polystyrene line? And I don't know how much time we have. We could go into more technical details of that, but I'd be happy to also, if there are people who are interested, reach out to me and share some of our learnings there and talk about it as well.
Or attend your talk at the upcoming Cleveland conference, right?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely.
So what are some of the biggest challenges and some of the biggest opportunities you see in advancing sustainable materials?
Great question again. So the challenge is definitely, I wouldn't say that bioplastics is the silver bullet solution for all of the challenges we have. It does make sense in certain applications. There's a lot of education that needs to go hand in hand, infrastructure development as well as policy, right? I know across the globe, a lot of people are still struggling with trying to make sure the policy is in alignment as well, but it goes hand in hand with education and having the right infrastructure as well. So the challenge definitely is as this industry grows, whether it's recycling or compostability, some of the things that need to fall in place as an industry is having those right infrastructure setups. Because if you look at it, I think one of the stronger strengths, though, is that there are standards in place. So the opportunity is for bioplastics, is there certifying bodies who can verify your product for a specific ASTM standard, and it shows that these materials can biodegrade in a composting setup within a given time frame of that's defined and in line with our composting setups here in the US. And these materials do get converted completely into carbon dioxide and water, and they do not persist. So I know there's been a lot of discussion about persistence in the environment. And so we have a solution, especially for products that get contaminated with food and that can be collected with food waste, because that itself is a challenge. So today, if you look at the municipal solid waste stream, about 35% of our solid waste stream is organic food waste, which can be, going back to a compost site and be converted back to a nice, rich nutrient compost. And what these compostable plastics do is enable not only separating that food waste, but also enable collection of organic food waste that can be diverted from a landfill into a compost site. So I think that's the opportunity. But like I said, much needs to be done on the infrastructure and education side of it.
Always that dang infrastructure.
Right. I mean, it's a staggering number too. You said 75% is food waste?
35%.
Oh, I'm sorry, 35%. I was like,
My God.
what? Did I hear that right? Yeah, so that's a huge amount, a huge portion of the waste. Now, you are currently chair of SPE's bioplastic division, is that correct?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
So what goals are you most passionate about driving forward this year during your
Yes.
leadership?
So the Bioplastics and Renewable Technologies Division, that's the name of our SPE chapter here. And again, SPE's mission overall, it has been education. And again, that's in alignment with what Bioplastics is about as well. And as we talked about earlier, there's a lot of confusion about what bioplastics are and can do. And so one of the things that we are focusing on is how can we get out there and educate some of our membership as well as broader community as well on what bioplastics are through this SPE division. And so what we're trying to do is, besides the Antec where we have our sessions, is there more events that we can have, whether it's a webinar, reaching out to professors who are in this space and experts that can educate and create some of the technical programming in trying to break down what these bioplastics can do and cannot do as well. We are also looking to partner with other divisions or collaborate with other divisions too. Right now we're talking to the medical plastics too, because everybody seems like there is some requirement for sustainability or bioplastics, and companies are trying to figure out how do they make their products sustainable. And so bioplastics can be one solution as well. And so how can we as a division provide that insight and resource to support some of these divisions? So that's in terms of education for the industrial community, but I'm talking to Eve as well, I know, on the Plastic Foundation, because the key is having our next generation, which is the kids that are in K through 12, and because they are growing up with learning that plastics are a problem. So how can we show them that bioplastics are just, another type of material which is also developed, which can be processed on a plastic equipment, but can be designed to not persist in the environment or be composted, or can be made with renewable resources. So we are not taking away from finite resources we have of oil, or having that carbon footprint reduction as well. So how do we educate the next generation as it comes to? So I'm hoping that we continue to include that maybe through our Plastic Foundation initiatives as well.
Yeah, I think the Plastivan does, specifically the Plastivan, part of the foundation, does a really great job. And I wish every school had like multiple Plastivan visits. My son, his school, we visited last year, and did like the little kids because I was like, I want to see him see a Plastivan. But they just came back this year, and did it for the older kids, which like makes sense. But my
Yeah.
son was so mad at me when he found out that they visited and he wasn't part of the class that got to go see it because he's only in first grade. And he's like, Mom, the big kids got it. He's like, that's from you. Why aren't you there? I'm like, it's actually not from me. So I'm like, I'm like, I am a part of that, but I'm not the one
That's
like
very cute.
teaching it. But he was like, he was
But
furious that he didn't get to do it again this year. And so it's like, it's that like introduction. I mean, granted, he's probably in a pretty pro plastics house in comparison to some kids, but like him and his friends were talking about it from like last year and like just that small touch point. Like there were so many other kids. I had other moms reaching out to me and be like, "Hey, did you see this like van that was here?" And I was like,
Mhm.
"Yes, yes, I do know."
you're the plastics lady, right?
That's me now. I'm the plastics lady.
I know what you mean. I know my daughter is very proudly used to share while she was in elementary school. She's a high schooler now, but that my mom makes materials that compost, and
That's
I know
awesome.
what that means. I don't know if she really did, but she's
Doesn't matter. The other kids hear it, and
it's
as long
yeah,
as it sticks in one
exactly.
kid's brain, like that's all that matters. Although I did get a call from another mom, for her daughter that um, saw the Plastivan visit this past week, and she said, maybe don't take the Plastivan to feral children. She's like, my daughter was in the basement lighting tissues on fire to see if they'd go like the flash paper. I'm like,
Oh
I'm like,
wow.
so sorry. And I'm like, listen, she's into science. She wants to see what
Yeah,
other materials work the same way.
future
She's like,
chemical engineer.
that's what
Exactly. There
I
you
said.
go.
I'm like, but like even that, like as chaotic and hilarious as that is, like that's a little girl that saw that, had no other real exposure to the plastics industry, and like
Mhm.
took it home and was like, let me see what else works. Like it's just that,
Right.
in this case,
Yeah,
literal
that's the
spark.
spark.
It,
Mhm.
it's an experiment.
Right.
It's a
I said,
scientific experiment.
well, then her mom told me she was like, "What's burning in the house?" And she asked the girl to help her, and the girl didn't tell her what she was doing and went with her mom to look for where the
Oh
burning was
no.
coming. I said, "Her science is just ahead of the times. She's just trying." And she's like, "Please." She's like, "Lynzie." I'm like, sorry,
Um,
I'm not gonna be mad about that. I think that's hilarious and delightful.
so speaking of the future, right? The next generation of plastics professionals, what advice would you give to young professionals or students that are interested in a technical career in plastics or other sustainable materials?
Uh, so, I mean, definitely, I'm a student of STEM, and we had less, girls in chemical engineering. But overall, I think we need to get kids excited about, just like Lynzie said, about being curious and keeping that spark, and exploring and innovating, because science is such a fun place to be as well. And so, for those who are interested in careers in science or for bioplastics and sustainability, it's a great time to be. There's, you have to think about what problem am I trying to solve here, right? So, I mean, sustainability is definitely one of them, but again, we don't have to limit the next generation to just one of the challenges to be resolved. I think as long as the kids continue to be curious and explore and don't limit it themselves to uh, uh, their curiosity and being hungry for knowledge. I think sky is the limit. Bioplastics definitely is one of the spaces where there's a lot of innovation that needs to happen in the next few years. There's a lot of performance that needs to be met. How can we replace some of the plastics that are causing some of the pollution? And so a lot of work is to be done in the coming years, and an opportunity to grow. And so if you have that spark for curiosity, this would be the place to be.
And the figurative spark, not the literal spark, like the
Yeah.
girl in the books.
Yes.
They have the literal spark for the hoods at school. Yeah, I think that's just like keeping those kids engaged is going to create so much. Like, I think a STEM career can really bring a lot of like joy and excitement, and I think that's like so underrated. But like, you look at what you're doing and what your developments are creating and the problems you're solving. Like, how does that not bring you joy? Like, let's be real, people. This is a great, joyful field. I will angrily argue for joy in this field.
You know me, right? Anytime I see a toilet seat that I developed the color for, right? I'm
Yes.
thrilled.
Exactly. There
It's the
would be
little things. It's the little things.
Yes, I think that's what got excited me initially. Like you wake up with a toothpaste and a toothbrush, and you get into a car. You wear clothes. That's plastic. Polyester, nylons, and basically your shoes. Everything you touch is plastic, and so. That was initially, was something that got excited, and so hopefully, this next generation, I feel like they need to see impact, and there is definitely a lot of potential, and what do you call it? This next generation likes to see what they are doing for the environment, what they want to know exactly. So I think there is already a curiosity and a need to make an impact beyond just the 8 to 5 job. And so I feel like there is a lot that's going to be coming from this next group of people. We shouldn't be concerned about.
I agree. And, kind of along those lines, besides the joy and curiosity part of it, is there anything else you wish people understood about, your work or even just like the industry as a whole?
So one thing was, the manufacturing side of it. So, like I said, I was working hard to do whatever it takes, and I feel like there should be a push. Or the thing that I would like to leave with it is also that women don't have to be scared of working in a manufacturing environment. It's the fundamental knowledge that brings you to solving problems. So if you enjoy problem solving, manufacturing place is just another type of problem solving. You apply your first principles into an equipment. That's about it. But I think there is more opportunities now as we grow into this, and so I'm hoping that if we can, my message would be and encourage more women to take up these non-traditional fields of manufacturing or chemical engineering or plastics manufacturing as well. Because I personally saw the resistance and had the challenge getting into this, but again, if I can do it, so anybody else can.
I love it.
Great.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're about out of time for today, but Dr. Shilpa Manjure, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. And definitely anybody who is out in Cleveland for the conference, it's in June, right?
It is in end of August.
Oh, it's end of August.
Even better.
AMI Bioplastics. Yep.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, yeah, anybody who's going to be attending that conference, be sure to check out Dr. Shilpa's talk. It sounds like a fascinating project you got to work on there.
Thank you so much for your time, and this was so fun. So thank you again for organizing.
If you've got a question, the voices of resin are here. Ooh, PlastChicks.
PlastChicks is an SPE sponsored podcast.